What's going on, folks? So I decided I'm going to do a brief video, a brief analysis, and very shallow, admittedly shallow analysis of the relationship between mainland China and Hong Kong. Because to me, it's oversimplified into, Hong Kong protests and the umbrella movement and everything else. I think we have to speak on this in a more pragmatic manner. And I'm going to start with talking about Jet Li's first movie, at least Jet Li's first official movie, which is the movie Shaolin Temple, produced in 1981. Jet Li had injured his knee by this point, and he had been a wushu star, and he had learned at the feet of Wu Bin, one of the founders, of wushu. This Shaolin Temple was produced, I believe, by a Hong Kong company. And this was the first time that we really got to see the actual Shaolin Temple. This is the Southern Shaolin Temple. This is before Shaolin Temple was able to really grow a lot. And now, of course, the Northern Shaolin Temple, I imagine, is finished by this point. But that's a whole other story. So 1981, Shaolin Temple is produced. Now, we go from there. I'm going to try to do this chronologically, and then I'm going to try to explain some things in between. Now, I'm talking about this purely from a cinematic experience. This is purely from movies and the different styles. So, Shaolin Temple really set the stage for wushu-style movies. And it was different from Hong Kong movies, and it was different from Hong Kong martial arts films or kung fu movies. Very different in the sense of, there's a lot more guttural, yeah, and all that. It's much more guttural, So I've switched from that. And there are other movies that are made, of course, in this style, Yellow River Fighter, and other movies like that. But I skipped to arguably kind of close to the end of the wushu era with a co-production, Shaolin Temple 3, aka Martial Arts of Shaolin. This was a movie directed by Hong Kong filmmaker Lau Kar-leung. Of course, Lau Kar-leung, for those that know, or Lu Cha-leong, was a master of Hong Kyun, and got the opportunity in 1985. This is at the end of the Shaw Brothers era, and the original Shaw Brothers era of making films. And so he had the chance to direct Shaolin Temple 3, Martial Arts of Shaolin. I don't want to put any clips, I'm not going to do any clips. I'm just going to do images, just so I don't get in trouble. Anyway, so now, of course, they clashed a lot. Jet Li and Lau Kar-leung argued a lot because of different styles. There was it's a very different mix, but it feels much more Hong Kong-ish, with much more, it wasn't as much about the emotion as it was in the wushu films, with the hi, yeah, and it was much more quick, fast movements, a lot of the flips, some slow motion, this and that. So it was much more Hong Kong of the 1980s brought into China, and to mainland China. And from there, of course, we have Jet Li coming to Hong Kong. And of course, this is before the turnover in 1997. Now, of course, Jet Li produced and was starred in many films, and he directed one film called Born to Defense. But, of Chinese films being done. Of course, Jet Li, like I said, was directed the movie Born to Defense, which is all right. It wasn't the greatest film ever, but I think that it was pretty good for, Jet Li. He, of course, did movies like Fist of Legends. He, of course, was, one of his first ones that he did, the series that he did, was the film Once Upon a Time in China. And, of course, that was famous because Jet Li hurt himself. And for the most part, that was done by another wushu guy by the name of Hong Yan. And Hong Yan also worked with Lau Kar-leung as well in some of his movies in the 1980s as well, like Tiger on the Beat. But anyway, I kind of got lost there just from trying to shift everything around because I thought, it's kind of quiet in here. I don't want to wake anybody up. Anyway, let's go ahead and continue on. So I'm going to switch from now talking about the movie game. And of course, you can talk, of course, about directors like Corey Yun Kwai going to mainland China and choreographing stuff, or Yun Tak, both of whom are opera brothers of Jackie Chan, who we're going to talk about next. Jackie Chan is a member of the, let me make sure I get this right here. I'll make sure I get all the letters correct here. The Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference. I think that's all the letters. We'll just do that. Chinese People's Political Consultative Governance Conference. Okay. So, Jackie Chan is a member of that, and he supports the new laws that are being put on to Hong Kong. Now, of course, a lot of Hong Kong residents are upset about this because while Jackie's lineage is originally from Shandong in mainland China, he was born and raised in Hong Kong, and of course, that's kind of how he's seen. So there is that aspect. Even people like Stephen Chow Sing-chi, one of the kings of comedy in Hong Kong, was recently at a CPCCC meeting in Guangzhou. So that has to be put into perspective. And I say this, it's like, oh, well, that's not the ordinary residents. I know. But the thing is that they didn't, they've tried their hand at Hollywood and didn't really work out. And we have these folks playing both sides. Jackie Chan, like I say, can play both sides, where he can do movies in the United States and also do them in mainland China. He has pretty much given up on Hong Kong. Of course, another example with Jackie Chan, let me go ahead and put his picture back up. Another aspect of Jackie Chan, of course, is his son, JC Chan, who was in Beijing with a friend of his who is a Taiwanese singer, and they were smoking weed. And of course, as you know, China is very strict on drugs, very, very strict. And they were going to give his son the death penalty. Of course, ultimately, JC Chan bailed himself out and everything, but Jackie Chan has pretty much disowned him. JC Chan, as far as I know now, lives with his mother, Joan Lin Chen, in Taiwan. But that's a whole different story. I do want to finish up on this point as well, is Run Run Shaw. Run Run Shaw, of course, Sir Run Run Shaw, he was given a sir, left Hong Kong, left mainland China, and it started the Shaw Brothers studio as we know it today at Clearwater Bay in Hong Kong in 1957. But once the handover came, he passed away in 2014. But even before that, he was able to go back and forth to mainland China. Many hospitals, both in Hong Kong and in mainland China, and schools and everything else, have his name on it. Now, of course, are you going to hear this from people who love to talk about China? No, you will not hear these things. You will not hear these aspects of talking about Jackie Chan being in the CPCCC or anything else like that. Now, of course, this to me stems from more of a Chinese nationalist perspective. But even, let me see here, I think it's Run Jae Shaw. Let me go ahead and put his picture up here. Just give me a brief moment. So yeah, even Run Jae Shaw, who is the second brother, I think it was the second though. But yeah, you had Run Jae Shaw, Run Mi Shaw, and Run Run Shaw. These were the four brothers that were involved in the movie making business. I'm just going to leave it be. But anyway, Run Jae Shaw, you would think that being a bourgeoisie guy who was a filmmaker and made a lot of, mostly Wong Mei opera movies. And that's a specific style of opera. There are a lot of different ones. You can get into Cantonese opera and everything else. But anyway, you would think that he would have been executed. He was not. He was also part of the Chinese People's Consultative Congress, once again. And he passed away in 1974 in Shanghai. So it's very interesting, these types of things. Once again, it's easy to paint with a broad brush and just say, well, it was just this one way. The Soviet Union got rid of gangs. No, they didn't. Soviet Union didn't get rid of gangs. They moved the gangs. They moved them into the gulags. Of course, like I say, the gulags aren't nearly as bad as American prisons are today. But the thing is that, you had the bitch wars after the Second World War because some gangsters chose to fight in the Red Army against the forces of fascism. I just went on that brief tirade for a moment because it's this idea that we think that, oh, well, it's just this one way and there's no other way around it. They don't want to talk about these little contradictions. And to me, these contradictions are the spice of life. And we have to be cognizant of these types of things. Run Run Shaw can simultaneously help to fund the movie Blade Runner. He helped to film the movie Blade Runner, but also has schools in mainland China named after him. And of course, he owned, like I say, Shaw Brothers Studio, which included TVB, still the largest studio in Hong Kong today. And of course, has huge holdings as well. I mean, or at least did have huge holdings before his death in 2014. And of course, even after his wife passed away in 2017, he still has several sons with the surname V. So Shaw V Meng. I can't remember what that means in any way, but yeah, basically, the relationship between mainland China and Hong Kong is very complicated. And I think that there is probably more respect for Chinese nationalism and reintegrating into China again. I think that is far stronger than any sort of completely astroturfed sort of respect for, the British crown, this and that. I think that Chinese nationalism is far more stronger. Same thing with Sammo Hung, the older brother. That's Sammo Hung in the middle there. And of course, you have Yuen Biao on the left, and of course, Jackie Chan. Sammo Hung and Yuen Biao both have been in numerous mainland Chinese productions. Sammo Hung is a big fan of golf. Oh, shoot. I didn't get that. Well, let me go ahead and put that in right quick. Oh, lordy. Oh, lordy. Give me a moment. Give me a moment, please. There we go. There we go. And Sammo Hung is a big fan of golf and has done many tours and this and that and supports a lot of, these golfing expeditions. So it just shows once again that the situation between mainland China and Hong Kong is very complex. And filmmakers, for one, are fairly pragmatic people. And I think that they, in general, at least in China, are very nationalistic. And I think regardless of, some sort of deeper meaning, and of course, like I say, nothing is one thing or another. There's plenty of contradiction on all sides. But to me, this idea that mainland China and Hong Kong are somehow huge enemies, to me is, as the Chinese phrase goes, 小废话, which means basically that's bullshit or it's nonsense. 小废话. And I think that once again, American colleagues and these American MLs or these Marxist-Leninist, Maoist third worlders or these folks that love China, like I say, it's much more complicated than you think. And ultimately, it's none of your business, Guilo. That's all I need to say. Or Lao Wai, whichever way. And I think with that, I think I've said my piece. And you can feel as you may. But that to me just kind of shows the difference. Like I say, this is a fairly shallow analysis. I could go deeper if I had more information. Or collect more information. But for now, I will leave it there. And I hope y'all enjoyed that. And y'all have a good rest of the day. And goodbye.